Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. I got a question for you. What do these three things have in common? We got some beer, some milk, and some white wine. The answer is they're all pretty lousy at room temperature. Now I know my British viewers might disagree because in Britain the tradition is to drink beer actually at room temperature, or warm as they call it. But for argument's sake, there's no squabbling going on. This is a Dutch beer. This is Grolsch. And in Europe and here in North America, we generally like our beer chilled. So for argument's sake, please, UK viewers, do not kick up a fuss. We're going to say that beer should be drunk in a chilled fashion for the sake of this video. Now, what I'm actually talking about is not exactly these drinks, but a gadget that I picked up recently. In my work, we got some renovations going on, and there's no refrigeration readily available to anybody. So I picked up a little thing that I thought would help keep my lunch nicely cooled. And it occurred to me, you know what, I should actually test it out for the purpose it was originally intended for. I got these Savoir stainless steel whiskey stones. Basically, they're ice cubes made of metal. And I've been joking with my wife, saying, "I've got cubes of steel, baby." It's a Duke Nukem reference. Anyway, so let me just show you what these things look like. They're pretty neat. They really look nice. They come with a little carrying bag here. And yeah, they're essentially little pieces of metal in the shape of an ice cube. Let's see if we can pop one out here. There we go. Yeah, so there you go. It's a metal cube, solid metal, stainless steel. You put them in the freezer, and they reach a nice, very, very cold temperature. And in my case, I'm just throwing them in my lunch bag to keep everything kind of refrigerated, which has been working very, very nicely. But I just thought, hey, wait a minute. I wonder, I've always thought to myself when I've had any of these items as a drink, if I've neglected it too long and it's kind of warmed up, I always thought, oh, I'll stick an ice cube in it. But then I thought, no, I don't want it to get watered down. I mean, milk with ice cubes? Blech, gross. But then I thought, well, hang on. Now that we've got these, why don't we try a little ice cube experimentation on some beer, some milk, and some wine? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to try these things out to see if a glass of each of these drinks with these metal ice cubes actually stays nice and cool. And then as a final part of the experiment, I'm actually going to use room temperature versions of these, put the ice cubes in them, and see if they actually get cool. So yeah, let's give this a whirl. All right, now it's the following day, and I've got each of these drinks chilled. Got our beer with a nice sheen of condensation on it there. Same with the milk, same with the wine. So what I'm going to do is now pour them into each of these glasses and put the ice cubes in and try them out. Before I do so, just want to point out my mug is a genuine Cheers mug. When we went to Boston, I picked that up at the bar there. That was pretty cool. All right, well, let's open each one up and then we'll put the ice cubes in. Now, I know there are different opinions on how to pour beer properly. You should probably let it have a big head on it. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to do it with hardly any head at all. The reason being that if I have it with a really huge head on it, it's just going to be a nightmare to try and get the ice cubes in there. Nice big glass of milk. The quantities are actually going to be a little bit of a snag here. If I have too much of each of these items, I'm going to get differing values for how long it takes the ice cubes to keep them cool. And the wine, finally, the wine's going to be the tricky one because you don't have quite as much wine as you do of the beer and the milk. So I'm going to try and make that a fairly full glass. That probably makes me a heck of a lush, but what the heck, it's for science. Now let's get the ice cubes. There's the ice cubes. They've been freezing overnight. You can see they're quite frosty looking. Since we got 6 of them, let's put 2 in each one. So 2 for the beer. That's the other reason why I didn't want to pour too much of the beer out there. 2 for the milk. 2 2 for the wine. I'm going to drop these carefully here into this glass. Right. Okay, now before I start the clock, I'm just going to have a little sample of each of these items to inform my taste buds just how cold these are. These are freshly out of the fridge and freshly with the ice cubes in them. So first the beer. Okay, I have gauged that one. Then the milk. Okay, the milk is actually surprisingly not as cold as the beer, they've both been in the fridge for like 24 hours. I assume that's something to do with the material that milk is made of. And finally, the wine. Yeah, wine and beer actually they're about the same level of cold temperature, so same amount of chill. Okay, I'm going to start the clock. Now, I tried a little experiment, all in the name of science. I actually tried the beer. I tried another one out of the same pack the other night just to see how long does it take a full one of these to reach room temperature. And it took about an hour, so I decided I'm not going to pour the whole thing because I don't really want to wait that long. But let's say I would assume, therefore, in about half an hour this would reach room temperature, and it's roughly the same quantity in each. I mean, these are obviously less than the beer, but without getting too scientific about it, we'll just assume they're all going to maybe be reaching room temperature at almost the same speed. So I'm going to come back in about 15 minutes and see, is there any noticeable warmness compared to what I have currently detected with my taste buds? And then we'll try again in half an hour. Start the clock. All right, well, it's been 15 minutes. I'm not expecting a huge difference here, but let's give it a sample. You can see the head has gone off the beer here. How cold is it? Hardly surprising. It doesn't really seem that much warmer or anything. How about the milk? Milk is about the same. It's still slightly less cold than the beer, but yeah, no difference really there. And I'm not expecting much with the wine. Yeah, not much difference with the wine. All right, and now it's 15 minutes later, so a full half hour since I first poured these drinks. I think this would be the last test because A, I don't think anybody's going to leave a drink for more than half an hour, and B, it's getting kind of late, and C, I don't think that milk should be staying out much longer. So let's give the beer a try. I gotta say, that still tastes like it did when I first poured it out. So it has, the ice cubes, are the cubes of steel, have done their job. That has kept the beer a nice chill. And now the milk. Yeah, the milk has actually remained the same chill half an hour later. And the nicest thing is, it's not watered down in any way. Like, I think of the three items, the milk is the one that would really stand out as the one that would be the most diluted if those were real ice cubes. The wine I'm expecting to feel as chilled as the beer. Now that's interesting. You know what? Actually, the wine doesn't seem to be quite as chill as the beer. And it wasn't initially, but I mean, it's still quite nice. Like, I'm just nitpicking here, but I would say actually the wine has kind of evened toward almost a room temperature more than the beer has, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, definitely, this is what the cubes were designed to do, and they do their job surprisingly well. I mean, here we are, half an hour later. These drinks are just as enjoyable as when they first came out of the fridge, and no impact to the flavor at all. So that's kind of cool. Okay, you know what? It took me long enough to pack all this stuff away that it's another 15 minutes, and I thought, well, let's give it this one last shot here. This is another 15, so 45 minutes since I originally poured this. Let's just try it out again. Beer is on that edge now. It's kind of reaching room temperature. Not bad though, considering. I mean, look how much of it is left. Let's try the milk. Yeah, same sort of thing. I think we're sort of at a tail end now of how long these things can go for. Finally, the wine. Yeah, 45 minutes seems to be about the limit of how long these things will stay chilled for. So, just thought I'd throw that in there as well. Alright, and here we are on the final leg of the experiment, final day. I've got my beer and my wine again. What's different this time is they are room temperature. These ones have been sitting out, no condensation at all. These are warm, the two of them. And I'm not going to do this one with the milk. I have a feeling leaving milk out for 24 hours would really not be a good idea. So this time I'm going to pour the beer and the wine and put the ice cubes in it and then give it 15 minutes at a try to see do they actually chill room temperature versions of these drinks. Let's give it a try. And again, I'm pouring the same amount of beer as before and trying not to get too big of a head on there. I think I didn't do quite as thorough a job this time. And the wine, I'm going to pour a pretty healthy glass of the stuff here. And here are our very, very frosty ice cubes. Again, I'm only going to put 2 of them in. I just thought, well, I'll put them all in the container just to keep that consistent. But I'm only going to put the 2 of them in. So let's give this a try. And again, being very careful how to drop it into the wine glass. And as we start the clock, I'm just going to have a quick swig of both just to inform my taste buds roughly what to gauge. So a little bit of the beer. Blech. And a little bit of the wine. Yep, not too great. Let's check back in 15 minutes. Alright, it's been 15 minutes. Let's give these, first of all, give them a little swirl around just to make sure any cool liquid gets around there. Let's have a swig. Yeah, it's a little bit cool. That's interesting. And the wine. You can actually see, I don't know if you can make that out there, but there's a little bit of condensation in there. Can you make that out? So it has cooled this wine a bit. Let's give it a little swirl around. See if I can show you that condensation there. It's probably not coming out in the camera. Regardless, let's have a little drink here. Yeah, that is just a little bit cool. Interestingly, kind of like when I did the opposite way around of chilled drinks coming to room temperature, the wine is not as cold as the beer. Anyway, let's try again in another 15 minutes. Alright, and now it's been another 15 minutes, so a total of half an hour. Let's give beer a little swirl and a swig. Yeah, that's not bad. I would say that's toward what that... Remember when I did the going from chill to room temperature, after 45 minutes it was kind of at the tail end? That's sort of where the beer is at now. It's at that tail end of about as cool or as warm, I guess, as it's ever going to get. Let's try the wine again, give it a little swirl around, and try this out. Interestingly, they actually feel about the same temperature now. Isn't that strange? The beer and the wine, after half an hour with the same amount of ice cubes in them, they seem to be about the same level of chill. I'm going to predict they've actually plateaued. Now, just like before, I found 45 minutes was actually the best test to do. So I am going to give this another 15 minutes and then do my conclusion. I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that's pretty much as cool as these two are going to get. But we'll find out. Be back in a bit. Alright, and the final test. So 45 minutes in, have they got any cooler? Is it acceptable? Well, The beer hasn't changed much. And again, there's a very small amount in here, so I think any frozen element of the actual cubes would make that beer quite cold. It really isn't all that cold. So I have a feeling the half hour to 45-minute range is about as much as you're going to get. Let's give the wine its proper shake. Give it a little swirl there and try it out. Yeah, about the same. Interestingly, like before, they are actually the same temperature. And given that the beer seemed to be cooler at first, maybe it's maybe as my wife says, maybe it's the alcohol content. So, but there we go. So, experiment concluded. There we go. The Savoir whiskey stones have now been tested. I think these are quite cool, no pun intended, for their purpose. And yeah, I'm still going to use them just to refrigerate my lunch, but I just thought that was a neat little experiment to try. What would happen if I put these into drinks to see, do they keep drinks cool? And admittedly, at least there's no impact on the flavor or the taste. So they do definitely benefit compared to ice cubes for that exact purpose. So there we go, and before I go, I know people are probably yelling at the screen saying, what do you mean you're using these things for the purpose in which they were intended? It says quite clearly on the box, these are whiskey stones. Why are you putting them in silly things like milk, you fool? Well, not to worry, there will be a follow-up video. Right, so until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.